Good afternoon, everyone, or evening or morning, depending on where you are. And welcome back to the 99th episode of Textile Talks. I'm Amy Milne, Executive Director of the Quilt Alliance. Thank you for taking time to join us today. It's so lovely to see you all joining in from all over the world. Say hi in the chat if you haven't already and tell us where you're connecting from. And please stick around to the very end of our presentation today because we're going to talk about next week's program, which is the 100th episode celebration, and there will be prizes next week. So you're going to want to stick around and find out what you're going to have to do to be eligible for prizes. Don't want to miss it. Textile Talks is a weekly series presented in partnership by the Quilt Alliance and our 5 partner organizations that you can see here. And all Textile Talks are recorded and available via YouTube. And my colleague, Emma Parker, who's in the chat box today, is going to put that link in the chat now so you can access all of the recordings in one place. The Quilt Alliance is the smallest member of our group, but our mission is huge: to document, preserve, and share the stories of all quilts and all quilt makers. Today, we're turning over the mic to 2 wonderful colleagues from our fellow fibers organization, Textile Center, a national center for fiber art. I think you will find today's program fascinating. During today's presentation, we will be sharing information about some of the center's upcoming digital classes in the chat box, so look for that. We are able to offer this series free to you because of the generosity of our underwriting sponsors who are listed here. Visit them, patronize them, and remember them. We are thrilled to be in our 3rd year of Textile Talks, thanks to these partners and you. Just a quick reminder about the chat box for greetings, comments, or technical help. Please use the chat box for those things, and use the Q&A box to enter your questions for our panelists throughout the presentation. Today, we're actually going to take questions throughout the presentation, so you don't have to wait until the end. You can turn on the live captions by clicking on the live transcript or CC button on your Zoom display panel. Some of our content today is pre-recorded, so the volume levels can vary slightly. So if you have headphones, we do recommend them. The Quilt Alliance is proud to partner with our special guest organization, Textile Center. Teaching artist Cecile Margaret Lewis, also known as Ceci, and Textile Center Director Karl Reichert are going to talk about reliquaries and the INTERLACE program at Textile Center. As I said, we pre-recorded the main part of the presentation today, but Ceci and Karl are here with us today in the chat box, and later they're going to come on live, along with Teresa Bonner, who is Director of E.A. Michelson Philanthropy, the innovative foundation supporting the INTERLACE program. And they will be able to answer your questions in real time throughout the program. Don't need to wait until the end. If you have a question, just enter it in the Q&A box and they'll try to answer. We'll also have them come on camera a little bit at the end for a very brief Q&A, so stick around for that. So I'm going to play the video now, and then I'll see you right after.
Welcome to the Gathering Basket, Creating a Reliquary. And I'm Karl Reichert, the Executive Director for Textile Center. I want to thank the Quilt Alliance and all the Textile Talks partners for hosting us today. Joining us very soon is going to be one of my very favorite people, Ceci Lewis, our Textile Center Program Associate and one of our beloved teaching artists here at Textile Center, which is based in Minneapolis. Textile Center's mission is to honor textile traditions, promote excellence and innovation, nurture appreciation, and inspire widespread participation in fiber art. And we're based in Minneapolis, near the University of Minnesota, kind of between the downtowns of Minneapolis and St. Paul. We have exhibition space. We have a library with more than 33,000 books. We have a retail store. We offer classes year-round for youth and adults. But what has become a cornerstone of our adult education program has been INTERLACE. And this program is designed for adults 55 plus, or as our funder will say, 55 and better. And this program is designed to bring together lifelong learners who have an appreciation for fiber art, a desire to learn new skills, and who also have a desire to cultivate relationships within community. It was during the summer of 2017 when EA Michelson Philanthropy, previously known as Aroha Philanthropies, convened arts leaders from across our state to share its plans to create a cohort of 15 arts and social service organizations to launch its Seeding Vitality Arts Initiative. This is a program that is really intended to be 8 weeks of sequential learning that will help older adults learn a skill, but also to find vitality in living through creating art in community. And I'm very pleased that Textile Center earned a place at this table thanks to our proposed INTERLACE program. We launched INTERLACE in April of 2018, and our workshops have included creating a reliquary, which you're going to hear about today, improvisational quilting, art to wear, felting, freeform sashiko, shibori, rug hooking, embroidery, and much more. I want to thank our Director for Artistic Advancement, Tracy Crum, for really pulling together a fantastic program that we now know as INTERLACE. Also, we do these in person at Textile Center, and we do offer some of our courses digitally. And creating a reliquary was created digitally with the help of our program associate, Ceci Lewis. And it's my pleasure to welcome Ceci today, who's going to walk us through creating a reliquary.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me. And we're going to talk about reliquaries a little bit and why, as an INTERLACE teacher, I chose making reliquaries. The particular cohort that we work with are all over 55. I am 69, so I know a little bit about being over 55. And I also know about making things. And as a lifetime nervous fiddler, dressmaker, tailor, all of that stuff, I find myself with a skill set now that I can actually employ. I was quilting for a while, but when I was involved with the Textile Center, this INTERLACE thing came up, and I had been seeing the INTERLACE classes out of the corner of my eye. But again, it's a constraint where I can't ever seem to take classes because of the scheduling. So when I was invited to teach an INTERLACE class, and by the way, I'd already been working with adults through the Textile Center because I do natural dye. I grow plants and dye with them, and I'm happy to share that kind of technique and information. So I had been working with adults as well. But when INTERLACE came up, I knew immediately I wanted to do a reliquary. And I can explain to you why reliquary. So first, let's talk a little bit about what a reliquary is. It is an edifice that has been built historically to reveal or conceal. It is an edifice that is built to project power or to change up a narrative if they want to recreate some history. But reliquaries either conceal or reveal. And that's the part of it that I like so much, is that whatever, when people participate in this with me, I always let them know that you should have something meaningful connected to this work you're about to do. So whatever it is, your choice might be, I don't want to share all my personal business with you guys, but I'm going to make this structure and I'll talk around it. I don't really want to tell you what's going on with me. So that's the one that wants to conceal the story. The other one wants to reveal the story, and they will put things out like what you can see over here. There's her stories. One of our participants took heroes from different eras, different times and cultures, and put them into a tree. So she is revealing, and she's also speaking of something that's very important to her. The one right next to it is Nature's Perfect Shape, and she absolutely work the top out on this. And there's embroidery. She used different threads. So she's showing her skill sets here. She is revealing some things. The other thing about a reliquary that I think is going to appeal to people all across the maker's arc would be that you can be a quilter and make a reliquary. You can be an embroiderer and make a reliquary. You might be a weaver. You might just be a crazy dyer and you like making marks. But whatever your skill set is, you can certainly make what you make into something structural to tell a story. The story should be personal. It should be meaningful. So one of the first things that I ask people to do who sign up for these classes is that they need to do a very stringent evaluation of themselves. Everybody's over 55. This is what I tell them. I know y'all got stuff by now. I know you got stuff. Some of us are actually hoarders. Others of us are very organized and we know where our things are. But in 55 plus years on this planet, you have accumulated stuff. And that stuff may be precious bits of fabric, things you started making and didn't finish. They may be things that have been too precious for you to utilize into the making of something. You keep taking them out, looking at them, talking about, this is me, I'm talking about myself. Oh, this is gorgeous. I can't cut this. Let me fold this up, put this away until I find something deserving of it. Well, if you don't pull that stuff out sooner or later, you're going to be passed on, and whoever has to sort out your stuff you left after you're deceased is going to, they may not treasure it. So the time is now. It requires some equipment, but as I show people, you don't have to have all the same stuff that I have. There are so many different ways to construct something, and we are talking textiles here. So hopefully we don't have to get a big saw out there in the workshop and stuff. But I'm telling the participants, you have things on hand. Please do not rush off to the store. Look through what you've accumulated in 55 plus years and use some of that stuff. Many of us have sewing machines that have come with a plethora of feet that we've never even looked at. So this is time for you to start pulling some of this stuff out, taking a look at it. YouTube will show you how to use some of these feet because our instruction books are never adequate, but you can actually see them being used on YouTube. Some of them I show in class, but I know we got stuff. We have equipment. We have precious things that we're saving up. But what we have, most importantly, is we have, particularly in a group of people, can you imagine the density of skill set in a group of people over 55? Can you imagine the density of experiences that we've all had? This is what happens when you get people who are past 55, because I spent so much time with really young people, I had forgotten what it feels like to be with your cohort. So for me, that was just marvelous to be with people who, there's shorthand for stuff. You don't have to explain to people your joints don't work the same anymore. When I'm with young children, I'll pass the needle and thread. I'm telling them, this is what grandmas do. Here, you thread this. I can't see the eye. But with our cohort, I don't even have to explain that. What I would tell my cohort is, you need to get this kind of thing to help you thread your needle if you don't have anybody around to pass it on to. The little clues that I can give about making affordable and sustainable, which means doable. I don't have, let me back up. I do. I like equipment. I'm like some of those fishermen who have like multiple tackle boxes full of stuff. And I have had enough things now where I don't need to buy too much of anything anymore. And I know working with people over 55, you guys have stuff. And even if you're not over 55 and you're an avid quilter or you're weaving, whatever, you have accumulated stuff. And I'm talking about the goods themselves, but it's the skill set that we apply in this interlace class. And all of us are coming from different skill sets. And the beauty is, in this interlace class, we get to share those skill sets. We offer each other suggestions. People will ask me how to do something. I'm like, hey, I don't have a clue. there's always somebody there involved who can pipe up and let us know how it's done. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that after spending quality time with people and we're all engaged trying to come up with ideas, it's the community part that happens. Even though we're virtual, people can feel that they're not alone. They can absolutely feel the caring in the group, and we get to know each other better. And one of the things I've noticed is at first everybody's kind of reserved and they're stiff and they'll tell a little bit. By the time we get to the halfway point, people are literally able to share the real feelings that we tend to drop masks over. Those feelings are grief. There's a lot of grief when you get over 55 because people begin disappearing from your life. And there's another grief about disappointment that, dang, I'm this old now and I never got a chance to do such and such a thing I always wished. You know, there's that kind of grief, the grief of passing, the grief of time passing and feeling like things are passing by you. We're in a time of rapid change. Some of us feel kind of left in the dust because every day you get up, there's a new thing, a new technology or something. Now we got to go back and learn it. Those of us over 55 are not digital natives. So we've had a lot to learn, and doggone it, we've done it because we clog up the internet with our stuff too, just like the young folks. So there's that, but it's the sharing of the grief, and that's really important. But then there's also the sharing of joy, and there's a lot of that. This is about learning. And the first thing that I want them to learn is about themselves. And I'm not worried about what their skill sets are at all, because I know that they're bringing something, absolutely bringing something. I want them, after our first class, I demand that they go back and really think about themselves. What can I do? What can I do really well? What is something I've made a slight stab at that is time for me to refine a bit? What equipment do I have to work with? What will my body allow me to do? Can I see what I'm doing? Y'all get some cataract surgery if you can't see. It took me a while to figure that one out. But I want them to look at who they are as a human, some of their experiences, the stuff that stuck to them, that's always present within them, what they can do, and what they have to work with. And for this reliquary class, I don't send them a bunch of stuff to work with. The supplies I send them with are the structural materials to wrap their whatever it is they make around to make it stand up. And so that would be, and I'm going to show you those different things, but I don't send them fancy precious fabric or anything else. These are personal choices that these individuals need to make. Sometimes people will gather up kind of like quilters, just bits and pieces from people that they love that may no longer be here, and they'll incorporate those. It's not important that we viewers know the significance of those bits, but for the maker, I want them to be very, very clear about what they're making, why they're making it, what the meaning is to themselves, and hopefully they can articulate that to someone else should they choose to share. I found that most people do choose to share. So here's an example of opening up, because a lot of times as people age with this isolation and the crumbling body and all the rest of it, we begin shutting down. And it's oftentimes in a group of making that people can remember a spark and say, oh, hey, I used to do that. And it's like, get out that chair. You need to keep doing something. Maybe you can't do that very fine embroidery you used to do, but there's surely something you can do. And if you really don't feel like doing anything, you feel lonely, grab somebody in there and teach them how to do something so you're not by yourself. So you are using your brain, you're using your memories, you're using your skill sets, and you're sharing. But there's this opening up that happens because one of the participants in the first INTERLACE class was very, very quiet. And there were two of them, as a matter of fact. One of them was going through a very agonizing situation where a family member was on her deathbed. it so happened that this family member created nothing but dissension within the family her whole life. And so this participant was wondering, because she knew her relative was going to die before the end of our class, she decided to make her reliquary about this person that was dying. And her job was to figure out, how can I do this to honor her? Because this is a human being, this is a loved one, she wore all of us out, but let me make something to honor the part of her that we love and that we're going to miss. So we went through that, and she missed a couple classes because there's a lot of bedside sitting and all kinds of stuff. But another participant told us finally that her adult son had committed suicide 18 months before. This reliquary class was where she was finally able to say this, to discuss it, to articulate. That's part of healing. It hurts to tell the story, but and everybody, sometimes people don't know how to talk to folks that have lost someone. They want to talk around it. And a lot of times we're anxious for you to remember that this person existed, that they're really a part of their. So what this person told us was that she and her husband couldn't even hardly talk about it. They had another child that they were going to have to sit down and finally work this out. So her first audience, freeing herself and being able to speak about it, was within the safety of this cohort, those of us working together. And that's the beauty of it. It is a safe place. And it is a place where we come to recognize our common humanity. And I don't think there's anything too much more common that is attached to our humanity than textiles. What are textiles? They're ubiquitous in our lives. Our first textile was probably some grasses snatched up out of the ground to cover those caveman feet. Okay. We had furs. We work with bones. Work with anything we could get to stand still, because textiles have always served us to protect us, to make our worlds more beautiful, for self-expression, because we like to make stuff, we like making marks, but textiles are all around us. And the way I speak about textiles is textiles accompany us from beginning to end. The new baby is welcomed into the world with a receiving blanket. I don't know what they're doing now because I haven't been in the funeral home, but textiles used to enclose the body of the deceased, called the winding sheet. Textiles, all this stuff's built on stitches. So I think of fishermen's nets. I think of people knitting scarves. I think of just about anything that we have done goes back to textiles. And textiles also are a mark of how the world functions, because you can travel around. People all over the world figured out how to use this plant, the indigo, and they're different plants in different places. But our ancestors figured out that chemistry and how to get that color out of a plant that didn't seem to want to yield it. But the textiles are very, very human. That designer's gown is put together with stitches, no different than the stitches that a surgeon is going to put in your damaged heart. Stitches, ubiquitous, old, elegant language that we all employ. So anyhow, enough of that. That's why I do reliquaries, because I know that no matter who shows up, you have something that you can slide into this. You have some application that a reliquary will showcase your work. It'll give you a chance for self-examination. Look at your goodies, your stuff, your pile of equipment, pull out some stuff. Mostly it is pulling out of oneself. So would you like to see the ones that I did? I've got them here right now. And I'm going to show you something that you probably couldn't see from the pictures that Karl gathered up. So I'm going to show you the reliquaries first. Then I'm going to show you what I did to make them. Well, not so much every technique, but just the simple kind of equipment that I use. So I'm going to switch the camera and you will see. So you saw a picture of this up there. This is my seed safe. I'm going to pan up a little bit. Oops. There we go. This is my seed safe, and I am a photographer. That is my first medium that I've ever worked with. I got a dark room by the time I was in 10th grade, And I would not know what I've been doing over the years if I didn't have pictures to prove it, because I've forgotten. So anyhow, here's my seed safe. And it's called seed safe because what is inside of here is what's important. So I'm gonna turn one of them sideways so that you can see. And there it is. So just to be clear, I am a quilter and these are hand dyes on here. The fabric is important to me because this madder root dye pot is leftover dye from teaching children. So I came home and printed out some muslin. The green and the yellow are leftovers from teaching children, natural dyes. And the indigo is also from teaching children. These are scraps I have left. The particular block I employed comes from this book, Simply Seminole. And so I just want you to know I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, but I pulled a quilt block straight out of this book. And I show these things in the classes that I teach. Anyhow, these are Seminole strips. For those of you who are quilters, you probably encountered these. And that's what I decided to use for my motif. For my colors, it's a nod out to the joy of working with children. And it's called a seed safe because inside here is my whole family, the whole thing. I'm gonna pan really close so you can see. So my daughter came by while I was making this. And she's like, my children are all like pushing 50. She's like, Mom, why'd you put us all inside of the box? Why don't you put us outside so people could see us? I've even got my folks in there. This is 1875 Georgia. That's my great-great-grandmother, and I can guarantee you she was enslaved. She raised my grandmother. She was born in 1871. This is 1875, and she's old. There's my grandma, and there's my grandpa. I never saw him, but I got a picture of my dad, my mom. That's me and my grandmothers. I'm a gardener. That's indigo seeds. And then there's me, ex-husband, and our kitties. And there's me again with my sons, my daughter. So that's the first part. And the next part of and I did obviously a two-piece reliquary. And I don't even have a big family. There's not that many of us. So the second part is my children when they were little. There's me and my kids under the orange tree. Another grandsons, teaching my folks how to dye indigo. More family people, all of us. And it concludes with my latest grandchild right there. And he's walking now. So my daughter's like, why did you put us inside the box? Why didn't you put us outside so somebody could see us and blah, blah, blah. I said, it's called a seed safe. Y'all are my seeds. I'm somebody's seed. And I didn't have to remind her that I live 5 blocks from George Floyd Square. So I said, I'm trying to keep my folks safe. That's all. And I can only do it like this because obviously I am not able to go around shadowing my children and their children and keeping everybody safe. I have no power like that. But that's why they're inside. Oh, and another thing about my reliquary is that if somebody peels this lining out of here, of the lid, they're going to find a written paper under here that's got everything I know about the people who are contained in here, where they're from, what year they're born, when they died, their full name, all that. It's under here. So they'd have to really be interested and want to pull, and they're loose stitches. They can always pull that out. So there's the bottom, there's the sides, and there's some fleece in here. And I'm going to show you the fleece in a second. So that's these two. I thought I was going to make a really tight yin yang that they'd nest together really tight, but this structural interfacing beat me down. Could not do it. So this is as close as I was able to get them to match, but they still look great. And I'm very, very happy with them. And I wonder who will want them when I'm gone. Sure, somebody will. So here's another one. And this is the one you saw the pictures from. So there's the top view. And switch my camera around again here so that you can see the side. And there it is. I've got all my equipment laid out here to show you. You can see rulers. There are always things to cut. So this is my mom. That's me a while ago. That would probably be in the late 80s. There's only one color picture here, and that would be my daughter. Because most of our pictures, at least for myself, the early pictures are black and white, the few color. So there's my daughter and Grandma Hannah. These are the women in my family. And my grandma. I use cowrie shells because I think they're beautiful. And being a product of the American slave trade, I always look back to the African continent to wonder what do they have or do that I did not get a chance for. There we go. But yeah, so there it is. This one does open up. You can spread these out. I'm not going to pull these cowrie shells through. I put them on there so people would leave it alone. Inside here is simply a fake Indian trade blanket. And I did this when I tried felting for the very first time. I'm like, oh, okay, you need some practice. But anyhow, so the inside of it is lined with a fake trade blanket. And then you saw the pictures are quilted straight through. And these pictures I did with bubble jet set on a very nice broadcloth. The bottom, there's just structural interfacing. If you tap on it, it sounds like cardboard. I've got, let me go a little closer so you can see some of this detail here. So some hand wound cords that are on here. Again, on the bottom. This one was kind of hard to get the base on. I think I, at some point, finally glued something on here. I don't remember, but I know it's like any means necessary. We're going to get it done. Quilted all through. And again, so you can see it, I do quilt through my photographs. I like that. I use these fabrics. These are some of my very first hand dyes I ever did. And they're all little half, what do you call them? Fat quarters and small pieces. And so this is what I'm talking about, these precious bits that we've got saved up. So that's how I did this one. And now I'm going to show you a little bit about the tools that we use. Okay. So one of the very important things, and I ask everybody to do this, is to please make a mock-up. And here's how you make the mock-up. You get some cereal box weight cardboard, not corrugated. And you're going to cut this up for the shape you want. You're going to literally make a cardboard mock-up before you even think about cutting into anything else. If you cannot get your structure to go together and stand up with this, you're certainly not going to do it with anything else. So I asked them just to get a hold of some of this and start cutting it up, and to use masking tape to join the parts of their mock-up. And once they've got a mock-up, they like how it looks, then we can begin thinking about how we're going to construct it. So here's the foundation right here. There's a couple of things that we use. This is Peltex. It's a Pellon product, and it's called Peltex 70. This comes with or without adhesive on it. So this is what you need to form a structure, no matter what you're using. If you're using cloth or some weaving stuff, whatever you've got, you're going to need to make it stand up. So this is, people use this to make bags and things. And so I use this. I personally prefer using the Peltex without the adhesive. That gives me a lot more control and choices that I can make. And so for the adhesive, I'm going to go grab this. And there's another product that's in here. And let me grab this again and show you. What's underneath this cloth here is fleece, fusible fleece, because I get fusible because I know it's not going to melt and it holds all my stuff and I'm still quilting through it. So there's the structural interfacing, some fusible fleece, and there is adhesive on this side of it, and that's been ironed on. It doesn't collapse. And under, the sheets of adhesive that there's another one you can get that's on a clear plastic, but you can probably see the adhesive here. That's the adhesive. This is the paper. So you draw on the paper. Some of you are familiar with this. And when I'm doing these classes, a lot of people are like, what is that? And I said, here it is. And I'm going to show you how to use it. There's another interfacing I use when I want to stiffen, like say my cover cloth was too wiggly. This is also a fusible interfacing. Which weight is this? This is called Decor Bond. Firm iron-on backing with extra crispness. This can be employed too. And I also use regular garment interfacing. I use whatever I can find around here that will get this to work the way that I want it to work. So when you're using fusibles, you're going to need something to keep the fusible from making a mess as it melts. So this is parchment paper. It works like a charm. And also what's on the back of the fusible adhesive itself is just some more parchment paper. So I save that and use it too. You may have silicone sheets to do your ironing on. If you don't have this, get some parchment paper. You get that at the grocery store. You may need some tracing paper. For placement, for design, it's nice because you can put it over areas that you want to work with and see if it'll fit or whatever. But tracing paper is a nice thing to have. And so that's the materials to make it. The rest of it, the participants bring with them. And oh, I almost forgot to show you this book. This is what got me started originally. It's Search Press is the publisher. Janet Edmonds is the author. And this is Beginner's Guide to Embroidered Boxes. Boy, I saw this book and I got really, really happy. So if you're interested in this, you might get a hold of this book. And I was looking, there's another book that I have. I couldn't find it fast enough today, but it's another box making book, and it's a British book, and it's a lot more complicated than this. This is super accessible. And then you've probably seen this. Fun and Easy Fabric Boxes. These are places you can start that will show you a lot of the same techniques that I'm using, because I literally borrowed from this girl. I'm like, oh, I like the way you're finishing the edges of this stuff. So these are some good ones. Just you may have these in a local library. You might have these books on your shelf. Take a look. But for me, it was this one that allowed me to get my design on that second reliquary. But these are about structure and the making. Let's see what else have we got here. Okay, and photographs. Should you choose to put images on your reliquary? So this is a inkjet prepared sheet from the store. Just run through the inkjet printers, my photographs. This makes noise. I don't like the sound of it. It has a plasticky feel, but look at the beautiful saturation of color. On a reliquary, this stuff's great. Here is the very same thing that's done with bubble jet set, and this has also been washed out. This has never had water on it, but this has been washed out. And so you can see the difference in the saturation. This may have been more saturated, but then I washed some of it out. But this is a very fine weave broadcloth and bubble jet set. I like that stuff because you can keep reusing it. More bubble jet set. So I'm going to pan really close. You can get pretty good detail with this stuff. There you go. Bubble jet set. And doesn't have to be color. There's me and my grandma's. You'll find this picture all over my house too, because they follow me around. I'm always asking them for help. And so again, more bubble jet set. Get pretty good color on it. And here is another one that's done with a commercially prepared. And again, it's this was a quilt label. It's an extra one that I did. Or I was a little younger then too. But anyhow, so this is very durable, but the noise of it kind of bothers me. So begs the question, there's always this question. How do we pay for this stuff? How much is this going to cost? How much of an investment am I making? Well, I'm here to tell you, if you're over 55, you have some stuff already. I just want you to look at what you have and repurpose, reimagine some of your belongings. And so now I'm going to show you how stiff the structural interfacing gets. This is 2 layers of it put together with the sticky adhesive, the melt adhesive, but it's really very, very hard. And so it will stand up on its own. So that's what the structural interfacing does for us, because it's just some quilting fabric. And so you can see a little bit the edges of the one that I showed you, the tear-shaped one. This is where I cut it off when I was constructing it. So we've got 2 layers here and 2 layers here. One is the inside and one is the outside. And then it was covered with cloth in here. There's the inside, and the pictures were laid down on here. This is the inside of the box. But this is all done with the structural interfacing. And so very quickly, I want to show you the tools. I use a sewing machine, and it's not a high-end machine. It's a domestic sewing machine. And I use a serger also. This is the important stuff. You need some cutting instruments. You can cut that structural interfacing with a straight edge and a box cutter. You can cut it with a rotary cutter. You're going to not do a lot of cutting because you're going to be changing the blade. But you can cut it with a rotary cutter or a box cutter. You're going to need a straight edge. And when I say straight edge, I literally mean a straight edge. Okay. Any kind of rulers you have as quilters or makers are going to come in very handy. We've got rulers that you can see through. We've got rulers you can fashion your angles. Got little T-squares. So those are the kind of things that I use. In this box under all these cutting implements is just more, what you call them, X-Acto knives and things, different kinds of X-Acto knives. And then for my sewing machine, and where I really ask people to take a look is, some of you are quilters and you're going to do your free motion quilting. I'm terrible at that, but so anyhow, there's your free motion quilting. You can use feet that will take cording. They need grooves. You may have these feet. Feet that will latch threads through, so you can do some thread painting, edge stitch. So a lot of you have these feet. You may ignore them. This is the kind of foot they're putting on a lot of machines now, because you can jump on humps by pushing this little button in, so the foot won't collapse on you. And another foot with holes in it to run 5 strands of thread through to decorate like that. So I ask people, please look at your stuff that came with your sewing machine. And there's always someone in the group who can answer questions about things that I may not know. You need marking equipment. My preference is actually tailor's chalk, because there's no wax in this stuff, so you can brush it right off, and it comes in very light pastel colors. Be careful with these blue markers, because sometimes they come back to bite you. A lot of times the ink will disappear. You need sharp pencils. You need some tape. You need some pins. And these things are a godsend. These clips, great clips to hold pieces together while you're working. So And if you cannot tell value and the value is going to be important to your work, you may have a ruby beholder or a green one just to help you establish value. If you don't have stuff like this, scan it in black and white and take a look at it on your computer. I know you guys got computers, but anyhow, that's pretty much it. So in a class, what I literally do is I go through every part of the way I'm making these things. I show them how I can make a lid. And this is one that it doesn't look good, but this is me going fast in class just to show them how I have put these pieces together. And I show them how to make a lid that will nest inside their containers. And I show them that whole process. I do it right in front of them. So that's what the Interlace class that I teach is about. And I ask people to please look at their stuff. I wind cords on this, or I'll wind them on a drill. I can even wind a cord on the bobbin winder on my sewing machine. Not my favorite. So obviously you need things like this. You probably have a bunch of thread on hand. I tell them which different threads to trust, which ones to not trust. I'm getting older. I love shiny stuff now. I used to not like it. But, and you might need an awl, but that's it. And I do use a serger. I'll do a rolled edge on the serger, or I will do satin stitching on a regular domestic zigzag machine. But that's it. I don't have anything else fancy here to show you. I wish I did. So that's how I make the reliquary. Most of it, to make a reliquary, is located in two places. Here and a heart. Obviously, you need some fingers and stuff, but it's mostly the idea and the emotional expression. And of course, community that gets formed as a result of working with people. But I tend to work with pretty simple things, and I try to make it so that whatever we're doing is accessible to whoever's participating. Whatever kind of equipment you have on hand, we're going to get it to work for you. So anyhow, that's how we make a reliquary.
Thank you, Ceci.
Okay.
And you bring so much joy into our classrooms, and we're so grateful to have you as a part of our Textile Center community. Thank you for sharing today.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. I loved that presentation. Somehow I'm not seeing my video yet, but I'm here. This is Amy and Karl. If you and Ceci would turn on your cameras, and Teresa, I think you're going to join us too. There she is. Hi, I apologize. I don't know what's going on with my video, but Karl, do you want to start? And maybe we can fit in some of the questions that were in the Q&A box. I know you wanted to introduce Teresa too.
Well, I'd just first like to thank, EA Michelson Philanthropies for their amazing support on Seeding Vitality Arts. It was the vision of this foundation to really create this amazing program. And Teresa, maybe you just want to say a few quick words about your work with Ellen Michelson on this exciting endeavor.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Karl. It's just an honor to be here today. Ceci, I can't say enough about how exciting it was to watch your recorded presentation. What an amazing, generous spirit you embody what this work is about. It's Michelson, by the way, but Ellen Michelson is the founder and president of the foundation, and this became her passion. How do we get programs that allow older adults to be able to exercise their creativity, discover their creativity, while making relationships that really help them in this part of our lives? I'm 67. I get it. And it is really amazing. We've done with what we did with the Textile Center, we've done now with about 50 organizations, and we're about to start a new round with art museums across the country. But honestly, we are so proud of our relationship with Textile Center, the extent to which you all have embraced this, the way you understand how important the social connections and the building of a social network for older people is, and to get to those places of trust and caring with people who share an interest. What could be better? So that's probably enough for right now, except that I will say we have made grants in excess of $15 million to get these programs going around the country. A national partnership with the American Alliance of Museums. We've engaged state arts agencies nationally on this. And so we're really proud of our commitment to the work, but you are the ones who make it real. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you to Ellen Michelson as well. We really appreciate that support. Ceci, there was a question about what Peltex number was that you were saying? Was it Peltex 72?
So Peltex 70. 70 is the Peltex without the fusible adhesive. And 71, I'm pretty sure, is the Peltex with the fusible adhesive already on it.
Great. And someone asked if the photos are printed on fabric. I know you've done
Yes.
a different procedures, but
Fabric.
Okay. How the bonding that people have, I mean, could you speak just briefly about that? Because you've done these reliquary classes, but friendships really are formed with the folks that you meet with over a span of 8 weeks.
Friendships are formed. And what I see is that people really are a little reticent at first because we don't know each other. But as time goes on, for example, we have people who are trying to figure out, how do I get my reliquary top to stay closed? Guess what? We have a jewelry maker involved. So that person comes in and instructs all of us about some fasteners that we probably have not thought about. And also, people after class and during class help each other with things. The first reliquary class, there was, I believe she might have been a costume designer originally. She has a full workshop of equipment, industrial equipment, and her offer was to everyone that she would be more than happy to help people use their machines and learn how to get the most out of them. And this during the pandemic too. I mean, people reach out to each other, and I know people are communicating outside of class as well. So yes, and sometimes people sign up with siblings or friends, and they might be siblings across the country from each other, and it's a chance to spend time together. But yeah, bonds get formed. And the main thing, I know I'm going on too long, but the main thing that I think we come to recognize is that we all are dealing with various things, and we're not alone, and we're not unique. Sometimes you feel special, like I got more problems than it. No, you're not special. You are not. You're another human. And so we do support each other. Yes.
You are a facilitated, I mean, you do so well at facilitation, and you're a gifted storyteller, Ceci. And I think that's what brings people so much joy in your classes, because you really know how to draw the stories out of everyone. So really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I was looking to see if there was any other questions. Have you ever used craft text for the structural material? Someone asked.
I think craft text is about the same weight as Pellon 70, I think. There was something that came out years ago, and it might have been that. Is that a British product?
Someone else had asked, so I'm going to move just quickly. They love the piece hanging behind you. Is that something that you created?
Yes.
Yes. And
it's natural indigo on linen.
Great. Okay. And then someone asked, why do we call this talk the Gathering Basket?
Because we gather up each other. We gather ourselves together. We gather our wits about ourselves. We go in there and look at our things. We take a look at ourselves to see, you've got to evaluate things. It's a gathering basket because everything is being gathered. And I'm talking about physical things and metaphysical things. It is a gathering basket.
Great.
Thank you, Ceci.
Yeah, thank you, Amy.
Karl, thank you, Teresa, for joining us. What an amazing program. And I want to apologize for some of the video resolution. I think that's all going to work out in the recording. So no worries. I apologize, but no worries. The recording is going to be crisp and clear. And I just want to go ahead and share a couple things before we go. Next week is our 100th episode of Textile Talks.
Wow.
We're going to have a blowout celebration with all our organizations represented. Please join us. We are going to have some serious bling. We're going to hear some quilt stories from our sponsors, because as we've seen today, sponsors are everything. They underwrite and partner with us to bring you this exciting content. So we're going to hear some stories from them. We're going to listen. The other directors and myself are going to dish. That makes it sound so pulpy, but we're actually just going to talk about what this has meant for us during the pandemic and how special it's been to have you as an audience and new friends. And we're going to do those door prizes, so please don't miss it. Again, I think Emma's going to put the registration link for that episode in the chat, so you can, before you leave today, go ahead and sign up. You'll need to be in attendance to win a prize, so big incentive to come. Again, thank you to our sponsors. They make this possible, and they make it possible to be free. I think all of this content, certainly today's presentation, was really valuable. And it's so nice to have this as something that is free of charge to all of us during this time. So thanks for joining us, and join us next week. I hope everyone has a great rest of the week. Take care, stay hydrated.